Hello, you're listening to the Career Changemaker podcast. Having the courage to leave a career that you have worked hard to build and try something else can be tough. So in each episode, we dive into key career change strategies so that you have a clear understanding of what is required to transition into a new role or a new industry without feeling like you have to start at the bottom or have to take a massive pay cut. Because ain't nobody got time for that. If you are ready for frank and honest discussions about how to become a career change maker, keep listening. I'm your host, lawyer turned career strategist and executive coach, Janine Esbrand. Hello, and welcome to the show. As always, I'm excited to bring you another interview episode. This one's a little different for a number of reasons. Firstly, I'm interviewing two people instead of one. And secondly, I did this interview in person at a local co-working space that I love to work from called Well and Good. I am interviewing the co-founders and hearing from them about their twists and turns and the pivots that they've made in their careers up to this point. They've gone from working in corporate in various roles to co-owning and running an incredible business that is fulfilling for them and impactful for the community. So if you're someone who has been thinking about making a move, has been hesitant, has been wondering if you're making the right decision, I really want you to grab a pen and paper, lean into this conversation because there are so many nuggets that you're going to be able to take away. And I hope that you will come away feeling inspired about your next move and open to the possibilities. So without further ado, let me jump in. Let's jump into my conversation with Charlie and Shelley from Well and Good. Hi ladies, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Can we start by you both introducing yourselves to the audience?
Sure. Shall I go first? Why not? I'm Charlie Holt, and I am one half of Well and Good, so co-owner of Well and Good. Yeah.
Well, handily enough, by coincidence, I am the other half of Well and Good. And my name is Shelley Wild. Hello.
There is so much that I want to cover on today's episode. I want to start by you both telling us how you got here. So you are co-owners of Well and Good, but I know that's not what you've always done. So share a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to being in this partnership.
Okay. Shall I go first again? Why not? That's okay. So my background is nothing related. I had a career in media, so I worked for Channel 4, Channel 5, Sky Media before that, in kind of sponsorship and partnerships within the sort of TV advertising world, which is totally different, obviously, to what I'm doing now. I did that for a long time in London. Really enjoyed it. It was really fun, in your 20s when basically you're going out for lunch all the time and schmoozing and all that type of thing. I had a brief stint in the charity sector as well, doing corporate fundraising, which was great. But then when I was on maternity leave, after I had my first baby, I decided to do my yoga teacher, just as kind of something to do. I think maybe in the back of my mind it's a bit of a get out clause because I knew I wasn't loving my career as it was. When I did that, I met Anna, who I originally set up Well and Good with, and we had this idea about setting a studio in Golden Lane. And it probably would have taken me a long time to get to that point, but she was very much like, let's just do it then. So I was like, okay. And I quit my job. I kind of jumped in both feet. So it's been a little bit of sort of round houses. That was about 5 years ago when we originally set up Well and Good 1.0, as I think of it. And then we were running for about 10 months. Then COVID hit and we had to shut down, which was not ideal. But we made it work. We kind of navigated all of that, which seems a bit of a lifetime ago now. And then we found the premises that we're in now. So we were originally in different premises. We found bigger premises. We knew that part of it that we're actually sitting in now would be a great studio. But we had this big space and we thought, what do we do with that? And that's when we thought about co-working, because everyone had been working from home, pretty lonely. So we thought co-working would be a great direction to go in. Love it. That's how it sort of came to be.
So good. So many transitions in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about pivots these days.
Yeah, so the master of
pivots. Yeah, that was a really whirlwind explanation of the last 20 years. But yeah.
Awesome. And Shelley, what about you? What's your background?
So I interestingly also started in telly. So I started off to university at the BBC, and then I quickly but rather strangely moved into management consulting. So I did work for Accenture for a number of years, doing management consulting, and became a project manager and an e-commerce business analyst. So I was in corporate doing lots of big corporate things, and then eventually moved into freelancing in that as well. So I was a freelance business consultant, and I took a 6-month trip around the world, which was amazing as like a sabbatical. And during that period, took loads of pictures, photos, and decided that I really, really loved photography. So when I got back, I actually went back to my job, which luckily, woo, isn't that great? After you go back, you do actually have a job to go back to. But I decided that actually I wanted to set up a photography business. So then I spent the next kind of couple of years transitioning out of that corporate role into a photography business. And I had that business for about 4.5 years. I did weddings, I did branding photography, and really, really loved it. And for family, personal reasons, had to quit that business. But I realised during that time that I had segued into working with a lot of female business owners and doing their branding photography for them. And I actually really loved the business aspect of everything we were talking about. So we're talking a lot about branding and about positioning and kind of strategy and stuff like that. And so I began to think about how can I blend my kind of corporate experience of looking at big, like billion-dollar businesses with that experience of working with one-person businesses and kind of small female-led companies. And I then discovered the world of online business management and thought, oh, I found my thing. I found my people, and there were people in the community that were as geeky about online business as I was. And I was like, yeah, it's not just me. And so I actually became certified as an online business manager about 3 years ago now. And I just leapt into my new business with open arms. I'm definitely someone that always felt like I was meant to have a business rather than be an employee. Since then I've kind of also pivoted, probably not quite as hard as Charlie, but I mainly work with female business owners on strategy now as well. And that's how Charlie and I came to know each other. So a couple of years ago, I started coming to classes here. So for anyone that's wondering about the studio, what does a studio mean? It's not an art studio. It is actually a yoga, Pilates, bar and movement studio, I guess we would call it. So I actually started coming to yoga classes here about 2 years ago, totally fell in love with the teachers and the space and everything else. And then Charlie and I started working together in a consulting capacity at the start of 23. Yeah, I think it was January 23. And so Charlie obviously was about to spontaneously combust with trying to run a really big business by herself and had a lot going on. And so I kind of stepped in to help with untangling that sort of yes. And in so doing, working with each other for about 9 months, we decided actually we get on quite well. And we quite like working together. And I was also really deeply in well and good. And I was like, oh, I just love this business so much. And had a really strong gut feel that there was something brewing. Yeah. And so as luck would have it, or as luck would brew, at the end of last year, so that was 23, we negotiated an exit with Anna, so Charlie's previous business partner, and I managed to transition in. And so now Charlie and I are obviously co-owners, and we both bring lots of different things to the table. But we have, I think, worked quite well together so far.
Well, you saved my sanity.
Yay!
I've had a lot more saving than I did probably about a year ago. So
excellent. So yeah, it's been a very organic, and sort of windy path. Yeah, isn't that just the fun way of doing
Yeah.
it. So, yeah.
But what's so awesome is that both of you have such a range of experience before you get to this point. And a lot of people that listen to this podcast and that are contemplating making a move, they're reluctant to move because they don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And so you've had lots of transitions.
Yeah.
So can you both share what your mindset has been around moving? Because some people will say, oh my gosh, you've had so many moves, but it's led you here. And so many people are scared to like make the first move because they don't know what it's going to look like. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have thought that you would have ended up here together. You didn't know, right?
Exactly.
So how's your mindset been around these shifts that you've both made?
I think it's been as kind of a gradual thing. I mean, the initial jump from being employed, in a corporate role to running my own business, like, I look back now, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, how I had a toddler and I was pregnant at the time. So yeah, hard mode. I don't know why. Maybe it was the hormones. I don't know, but I just decided to go for it. I knew I wasn't happy and I didn't want to continue what I was doing. And it felt quite an easy decision in a way because I loved the idea of it. I loved the idea of a studio. I loved the idea of having something local. I didn't want to be commuting anymore. I had 2 young kids and I wanted something that worked. I mean, looking back on it now, like, I was going to say it worked around the family. It totally didn't for years. Like, it was an absolute... I was about to say, can I swear? So I think with hindsight, it's kind of tricky to look at it. But I think everything was kind of incremental after that. And once we started, I was so into it. I was so passionate about what we were doing. I felt like there was a real need for it. It was quite a natural process for things to sort of grow naturally. That first big step, yes, it was really hard. But I think my push was that I just couldn't bear the thought of doing what I was doing for much longer. I was like, no one's going to make this change for me. So I've just got to take the leap. And sometimes you do just have to take the leap. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it's harder than you thought, it probably will be harder than you thought. But the pros that come with it are incredible. That sense of, this is my thing. Like, I don't have to answer to anyone. That's a huge thing for me. Again, we'll probably come on to this. Like, it isn't without its challenges, but sometimes you just have to sort of take a leap and go with it, ride it out, see what happens.
And I like what you said about knowing, I know what I don't want to do, and so I'm going to move towards something else and take the challenges with it. Sometimes it's necessary, right?
Because you think, well, what's the alternative really? Just sitting in this job I'm not happy with for X amount of years. Getting slightly existential, but you've only got one life, so.
Like Charlie, I think it is for me, like, navigating it's not really easy. And I think sometimes when you're in a position where you're not happy and you're looking at others that have made big changes, you assume like, oh, they're cool, like they've done this amazing thing, it must be easy for them. And actually it doesn't feel like that for me because I'm not brave enough or whatever. But actually, don't be misled. It is hard for everybody. And no one is like, woohoo, I'm going to change my life and it's going to be awesome. It is big and it is scary. But I do think that there's that lovely Elaine Nin quote about being the precious to be like tight in a bud is less than wanting to grow or something like that. I'm terribly paraphrasing it, but you just get to that kind of point where you think, I can't do this anymore. And obviously that is a point of pain in some ways, but it's also a point of power as well, I think. And for me, it was really following joy and following what felt fun, even if you don't have a sense of what the absolute end goal is, just making kind of small incremental adjustments towards what feels more easy, what feels more joyful, what feels curiosity piquing, can be a nice way of kind of pivoting more slowly. Like, you don't always have to do a massive leap out of something. You can always kind of dip your toe in and progress at the speed of safety, which I think is quite important. And also I've sort of come to realize that a few years ago, I think I had a very black and white mentality around kind of corporate versus business, like having my own business. And as I mentioned, like, I had to close down my photography business and I had to go back into a corporate freelance role again, because I frankly just needed the stability of it at the time. And oh my gosh, the mental thrashing that I gave myself when I was making that decision in terms of like, I failed and oh my God, I'm going back to the man with a capital T and a capital N, you know, and like, I'm selling my soul again. And, you know, I really kind of beat myself up about it. But actually, the more that I grow and the more that I meet with my clients and Charlie and everyone that comes into Well and Good, the more I realize that actually it's possible to view your work as a very portfolio type thing where you can flow in and out of different roles and different. One year you're working at corporate, the next year you're running a bakery, the next year you're being a shopper. Like it doesn't have to be quite as black and white as you maybe in your head think. And I think there's a lot of rhetoric in the entrepreneurial world about having to smash it and having to like grow a massive company and get like round funding and da da da. Actually, most of us don't end up doing that. And so it's perfectly okay to basically please yourself and be flexible and sort of let your career like flow into whichever areas that it needs to at the time without feeling too, you know, regimented about it. And that's really helped me to kind of let go of a bit of like the shame and the kind of the hardness around making those decisions. And obviously when I came on board with Charlie, like I have my own business, my own strategy consultancy. And so there in some senses, there was a lot of like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what are you doing? Like, you already have a business and now you're kind of partnering with someone in a new business. But actually, it was a 95% gut decision for me. I never had any doubts about it. I really do trust my intuition these days, and I was fully in. I'm getting to this.
But that's something you've massively taught me, and it's something that I've never really thought out for. I'm so like, Shelley is like the woo side of us. Like I've not had the woo side, despite being a yoga teacher. I never sort of felt that it was very much like, no, I can have a career and that's kind of it. But you have totally like opened my eyes to like, you know, trusting your gut and like having that intuition and just sort of going with things. And it's completely changed my mentality over the past year or so.
I love it. Can we talk more about this? Like,
absolutely.
The partnership, the synergy, because I think one of the things as women we can do is feel like we have to do it all on our own. Like, okay, I need to do this thing and I need to figure it out. And actually, like, just seeing how you work together and appreciating that you have different things that you bring to the table. Something awesome's been created because, like, you're doing it together. So can you speak more around, like, collaboration, partnership, and, like, your thoughts on that piece? Because I think people overlook that as an option sometimes. You know?
I think for me, that was one of the massive challenges when I first set out. It's that feeling like having to, you know, wear all the hats. It's like you have to do all the things. And I felt like I had to pretend I had my, sorry, I was just swearing, I had my shit together. And you totally don't. And that's the thing. And again, this is what Shelley's kind of brought, that the fact that you're not expected to know everything. How on earth would I, who has had a corporate career, know how to run a business? It's like you just have to sort of get on with it and you have to ask for help. I'm terrible at asking for help. So when Shelley and I first started working together, like it was literally like the cloud carpet. I was like, just the fact that there was someone who was like, okay, well, I can do these bits because she's an expert in her field and she knows all this stuff. I was like, oh my God. And I remember I was talking to someone else about it before, and I was like, I literally wanted Shelley to sit next to me all the time, like Shelley, like asking questions. And it all started quite natural, hopefully not too annoying, me just asking you questions all the time. But that sort of collaboration, it makes it a lot more fun as well. Just, you know, having, whether that's a business partner or just other people around you who get it and you can rely on, you can ask, and in return you can help those people. It's this, I think, that people talk about with motherhood, like you're not supposed to do it alone. Like there's supposed to be a village, and I totally was not having any kind of village around me. It's like, okay, I need to work this all out by myself and show that I can do it, and it was exhausting. Because you're never going to know everything. And especially, you know, we have a physical premises as well, which adds another dimension to it, you know. And so you'd be going from, you know, hoovering and then doing the marketing and like you would do all these things. And that is something that, you know, we've been working on quite hard since the beginning, you know, putting processes in place and getting people in place. getting an automatic Hoover in place. So
It scared me.
I went down that early. I was like, what is that? And just that collaboration it just makes working a lot more joyful as well. And I can honestly say, like, I love doing this, and it's just, we work together on a Monday, so every Monday we bring it together, and I genuinely look forward to Mondays because it's our day together.
Isn't that the best thing? You look for Monday, like actually wake up on Monday morning and be like,
totally. It's really hard not to be annoyingly smug about it.
it's my Monday.
Yeah, we have a lot of people coming to workspace, and who maybe aren't feeling their Mondays as much, but hopefully we give them a bit of a nice welcome, so they come and get a cup of tea, and we can
Sometimes even a Tim Tam if we're feeling really
the posh biscuits.
So yeah. Oh gosh, well yeah, there's so much to say about collaboration. I do really I'm really, really passionate about it as a principle really in business. And I think it's quite countercultural. I do think there's sort of that really strong individualistic streak that we've all had conditioned into us. Men and women alike really about kind of, it's weak to ask for help and we have to figure everything out alone. And it's a very much like dog eat dog. We're all climbing over each other to kind of win, whatever winning means. And so it feels deliciously rebellious to actually decide that you're going to prioritize fun and friendship and collaboration over winning, whatever winning means to you. And I'll mention, like, Charlie and I had an amazing conversation, which I still very much mull over recently, about 3 weeks ago. And we had taken ourselves off for a little strategy morning. So hot tip, when you have a business, either yourself or with other people, one of the best things you can do is actually take yourself away regularly for half a day or a day and actually have a CEO day and actually think about where is the business going? What do I want? All of those juicy questions. Anyway, side note, when I joined the business in November last year, predictably, I threw myself at it, all guns blazing, and completely overwhelmed myself with the to-do list. So as you can imagine, if you run like a simple online business and it's just you already have a big to-do list. But then if you add in 2 businesses and the other business is a physical premises with a yoga studio, a co-working space, event hire, and a business club.
4 businesses in one.
Yeah, 4 businesses in one. And you've got thousands of clients and back-end systems and probably 5 or 6 people that help us run the hub and everything else. And a premises that constantly needs like maintenance and everything else. The to-do list literally is endless. And I was very much doing the classic thing of, if I work harder, then it will work. Something will magically happen and we'll suddenly slip into this twilight zone of like everything being so greasy and we're just wafting around doing nothing. And surprise, actually that doesn't really happen. And this is the kind of business that can take all of your energy and your time and bubble it all up and be like, delicious, more please. And so I really, at the start of this year, I really had to take a step back and think, whoa there, I'm going to burn myself out really quickly. And I know myself and I know my warning signs, and then they were starting to tinge around the edges. And I was like, I've been here before and I don't want to go back in this direction. So we had this really wonderful conversation where we were both like, even though we're conditioned in corporate culture land, where obviously if you're working remotely, you're constantly validating your presence with everyone you work with. So you're constantly like messaging and being like, I'm here, I'm doing this today. Like, just so you know, I'm working really hard. And, like you're constantly sort of like proving yourself, like how hard you're working and what you're doing, like your task list. And we were just like, look, we've both got skin in the game. We both really want this business to succeed. We both have a lot of other commitments. So Charlie obviously has a young family. I have another business. Like, we've got loads of stuff going on. And we're just going to trust each other that we're going to do what needs to be done.
I love that.
And we're going to communicate, like we obviously talk all day, every day, pretty much, don't we? But we don't have to keep like proving ourselves to each other and to anyone else in the business. Like, this is our business, we get to do it how we want. And hopefully we bring that kind of vibe to everyone we work with and everyone we invite in that there's nothing to prove here. And Janine, obviously, do you remember when you came in a while ago and you were just having like...
I was literally going to say that. I was going to say that whole, how you're approaching your business, like it overflows into the business. And so for those of you who like don't know about Well and Good, it's a co-working space that is like amazing. And it's not just amazing because of the fact that there's tables and chairs and there's places to work and there's internet. It's the vibe. And there's been numerous occasions where I'm like, oh, I've arrived, because there was one day in particular I was having the worst Friday ever. It was raining, the car stopped working, my husband was away, and then I had to walk from like the garage here in the rain with a little kid's umbrella because I didn't have one, and my son had left his bag. It was just terrible. And I walked in and Shelley was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, no. And then she just came over and gave me the biggest hug that I just needed. And I was like, where'd you get that? And other times I've come in and Charlie's like, how's your day? And I'm like, these kids are driving. And like literally have like a 10-minute round, and she'll just listen to me. And then I'm like, all is well now. I can go and work. And I think that's unique. Like, you don't necessarily get that. It doesn't feel transactional. It feels like there's a community here, and that you care, and you're providing a space, not just a physical space, but also like holding space for people. And that's why I was like, this place is magic. Like, we need to talk about it and tell people about it. But I don't think you can create that without this, like the partnership you have.
And that's something we're quite conscious of, because, you know, again, when I was here before Shelley, like, you know, I would be here all the time. Like, I lived here basically. And since figuring things out with Shelley, like, I realised that doesn't have to be the case. I can have a bit of a life outside of here. So, you know, we work really hard on that. So now we're in a couple of days a week and we have other people to cover. But we're really conscious of the fact that we want to be here. We love it. And we do feel like that, as founders, being here and setting that tone is really important to how people perceive the space. It's important to us. Yeah.
And so where you have all the things going on, you have like networking that you run, and like recently you've launched the business club. Say more about that, because I think this is like another dimension to like co-working. Then it's like co-working, you come and do business, but actually you can get help with that and support with planning. And why did you decide to add that bit?
Shall I start with the Coffee and Connection bit? So probably about 2 years ago now, maybe that far back. I originally wanted to set up something for women, primarily women who work for themselves, but it's always been quite open to, you know, whoever wants to come. We set up a women's networking session once a month called Coffee and Connection. Really casual. We wanted something that wasn't like your traditional networking that's handing out business cards and having to do a 2-minute pitch, and it's all really cringy and awful and everyone hates it. So I wanted something very casual. People would feel really welcome just to come. It's really accessible, like, you know, it's £20 for a couple of hours, and we have a guest speaker every time. So someone who can do a talk on, you know, we've had a whole range of topics, some business related, others more well-being related. And when they come, they have tea, they have coffee, they have croissants. We put on a great spread. Very into the food, you know, it's very important. They learn something new, and they get to meet other like-minded local women and just feel that like collaboration and support. And we've seen so many people, you know, forge those relationships from that. And it felt really special. It felt really like something that people really wanted. But a lot of repeats, women who come every time, we have new faces. So it's become a really lovely, safe space in a way, because sometimes the conversations that happen are quite deep, and it does get, you know, it brings up emotions, and whether that's to do with business or work or kids, and it's just a really, really lovely environment. So we started that, and that's going really well. And from that, we sensed there was something else that we could do to support these people more, which is when we set up the Good Business Club. If you want to talk a little bit about the Good Business Club.
Love that hand over there. Thank you. Yeah, so the Good Business Club was born out of a lot of fun, really, and connection, and the relationships that we were seeing forming through Coffee and Connections, that people were enjoying them and they wanted more. So Coffee and Connections is a once a month thing, but there was desire for kind of conversations in and around and outside that 2-hour slot once a month. And obviously, even though it's your kind of monthly therapy session for your business, which is great, you don't necessarily get to speak to everyone in the room because everyone's chatting and things like that. So we wanted to kind of foster more of an ongoing relationship between people, and begin to build a community at Well and Good and amongst our co-workers of people who actually have their own businesses. So obviously some people that co-work here are just employees and they kind of come, they're on their calls, and then some people are here for actual kind of connection and to try and make, to try and build relationships between other local business owners. And so we wanted to create like an environment, a space for people to do that. And so we built out this business club with a couple of different tiers in it to try and suit different levels of involvement and commitment that people wanted to do. And also we included the quarterly planning workshops as well, which I run here. And so it was just a way of kind of trying to continue the feeling of, hey, I'm not alone, and I've got people to reach out to, other people on the journey with me, beyond and around and between the monthly Coffee and Connections. Yeah. So we launched that in January this year. So we're still very early days. Ginny, obviously you're one of our very founders. But yeah, it's growing in a really organic and lovely way. And so it's excited to grow that more. We're considering adding some more options into it and sort of taking the feedback that we've had thus far from people and kind of adjusting. And, we're kind of beta testing it really in a sense. So we're here to serve the community, and it's just another option for people who want to go a bit further and also promote their business to our audience as well. So people who have a business who want local clients, it's a great opportunity to get in front of those our big audience locally as well. So it's exciting.
I see a theme and a thread here, like in terms of things developing organically and noticing opportunity or noticing that there may be something and then pursuing it. So even when you were both talking about your backgrounds, it's like, I liked photography. And so I decided to like yoga. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's a thing here, let me pursue it. And now even within the business, it's like, okay, people are connecting. How can we help with that? And I think there's a big lesson in that, because I think sometimes we're trying so hard to just figure out the plan before we take steps or make moves. And actually the plan unfolds if you let it unfold, is how it sounds in terms of
I think so too. And like we said, we wouldn't have imagined we'd be here doing exactly what we're doing now, sort of, a year or two ago. And I think there's something about that that's just sort of being quite open-minded to things that come your way, and things that we're doing now that seem so obvious. I never would have thought about. I think being open and obviously having people around you to talk these things through and say, is this something that could work? It's being open and not holding everything, which I think in the past I've been quite guilty of. I've held everything and thought I had to have everything figured out before I launched something and before I did anything. It's like, do you know what? We'll just try our best. If something doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. And I think I've got much better at that mentality of being, do you know what? It's okay. Nobody died. Like, it's cool. Nobody died.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes. I love that. It's really unpicking a lot of those, themes and those thoughts that you had, maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. I do feel like, gosh, I'm really old, but like the younger generation, they're a lot more open to sort of portfolio careers and trying things out. Whereas, we didn't really have the mentality. So you go to school, you go to university, you get a job. And so it's sort of unlearning all of that and being a bit kinder to yourself. And thinking, actually, I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have to get it perfect. Like, no one is in mind. And actually, no one's really thinking about it. Nobody cares. And that is something that literally is my mantra. Like, nobody cares. For me, agonising these things. No one else in the world is thinking about this. No one else cares whether you do this thing or not. Once you launch it, fine. They might be interested. They might not. It's not the end of the world.
I love
Perspective.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. So we've talked a lot about local. I'm conscious that there's people listening all over. Where is local? Like, as in, where is Well and Good? Where can people come to experience this amazingness?
I mean, feel free to commute in from the far-flung corners of the world if you wish. We would love to see So we are located in Godalming, which for those of you that haven't had the pleasure of visiting, is a very beautiful, very old market town near Guildford in Surrey. So that's just south of London in the UK. And if you've ever seen the movie The Holiday with Kate Winslet,
I love that movie.
it was actually filmed. So the English part of that film was actually filmed in Godalming. So they're very cute little cobbledy streets and things like that are Godalming. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where we are.
That's something bad.
And so if people want to learn more, where do they go? Like your Instagram, what's the main place?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably a good place to start. So we are at Well and Good Godalming. And we also have a website, but probably Instagram is probably a really good place to start with. But everything on there that is coming up, all of our events, or any offers that we have. You'll see our faces sometimes. We're trying to get better at that. Putting your face out there. It doesn't come true, but it's something you kind of got to do, isn't it? So
that's actually a really good example when we do our daily stories, when Charlie's like, do you fancy a selfie? And I'm like, I guess. And then we literally have to put the first picture up, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
We don't try and perfect it.
No.
Like, that's our faces. That's good enough.
Yeah. Again, no one cares.
Everyone's just literally swipe through. It's fine.
I love it. So I'm going to put the link to the website and the handle and everything in the show notes so people can check it out. As we close, is there a saying, a mantra? I think you mentioned a mantra just now, like nobody cares. Do you have one, Chelley, that you would...
Yours will definitely be better and more earnest than mine, like no one cares. Like...
No, there's space for anything. Oh my gosh, that's a really hard one. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, I love that one.
And also, not all who wander are lost is coming to my mind as well, which is a Tolkien quote, which I like it. It sort of plays into the idea of curiosity and just allowing yourself to follow the golden thread, and not try and architect things too much. Just allow yourself to enjoy.
So good.
Why?
So good. There's the wisdom and the practical. That's what I'm saying. It works together.
Yeah. You need both.
Thank you so much, ladies. This has been so much fun. I haven't recorded, I think I may have recorded one other in-person podcast interview in 250 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So this has been good.
I like it. So maybe more of these.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being awesome.
Okay.
Are you feeling inspired? I hope so, because these ladies are incredible. My biggest takeaway from their journey was how powerful it is to make moves without necessarily knowing how everything is going to turn out. Being open to taking the next best step and trusting that things will unfold in the way that they need to. I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway was. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, join our LinkedIn community, Career Change Makers with Janine Esbrand, or shoot me a message over on Instagram. Just let me know what your biggest takeaway has been from this episode. And hey, if you're ever in Godalming, in Surrey, in the UK, come and check out the co-working space that Chelley and Charlie run. You will probably find me there working because it's a place that I am most productive and I spend most working days there. So come and shout me if you're ever in the area. And in the meantime, I'll put their Instagram handles and their website links in the show notes. So be sure to check those out over on the Career Change Makers website. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving towards your career goals. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any future episodes. Also, I would love to know what your biggest takeaway has been from today's episode. Come over and join us in our Career Changemakers community over on LinkedIn so that you can join the conversation there. Head over to lightboxcoaching.com/community and it will take you right to the group.